Hey, how you doing? Uh-oh. Are you seeing this on your PS2? Don't worry, I'm going to show you step by step on how to resolve this problem. Stick around. Right before we get started, let's get our bench all set up with the things that we're going to need. Perfect. We got our tools, we got our PS2, and a few other things that I'm going to go ahead and bring in frame when it's necessary. Let's begin with taking this apart. First things first, we're going to go ahead and remove this warranty sticker here. And what I like to use is one of these precise knives to open them up. It just leaves a nice clean cut, so we'll go ahead and do that now. Following this step, we're going to go ahead and remove the expansion bay cover. I like to use one of these tools. It doesn't really matter if you have one of these or not. You can use a flathead screwdriver, but we'll just set that aside and proceed to flip our PS2 upside down. With this PS2, we have screws that are hidden underneath each cover. Again, you can use a small flathead screwdriver. I'm just going to use this. And you'll just pry it in between these covers and pull everything off. They should come off very easily. Some PS2s will have 2 or 3 more right here. That's completely normal. It's just a different type of model you have. But again, we'll just set these aside. Now, for our case, we have 8 screws that we need to remove. And you want to keep them in order because some are longer than others. I'll go ahead and leave a link down in the description below with all the tools that I used to take apart this PS2 in case any of you were interested in picking yourself up one. I like to use a magnet when I take out the screws. It's completely unnecessary, but it's just personal preference. Again, keep all the screws in line with each other because they do go back in this specific order. I'm going to zoom out now because we're at the step where we're going to take this apart. I currently have the SCPH 5001. So with this one, you don't have to worry too much about opening it up because typically on the other model PS2s, there's going to be a ribbon cable right here. You don't just want to yank this off. But with this model in particular, you kind of want to just tilt it from this angle towards you. Give it a little shimmy. And it comes right off. Put this off to the side. And move on to the next step, which is taking apart the fan, the power switch. We want to take off this piece here, which is where your controllers and your memory cards go, and then we'll continue from there. Before I proceed, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in to the 2 screws that I'll be taking apart. I've received a lot of comments in the past of closer shots because they could not see. And here are the 2 screws that we are going to remove. There's the 1 and the 2. And as we remove this, don't just immediately pull it out. There is a ribbon cable there, so just be mindful of that. Be gentle when you're removing it. And right here at the bottom is going to be the ribbon cable that is secured by a clip. And if I could zoom in and see how that looks on camera, it doesn't look too bad. What you want to do is just lift this clip this way, and I'll demonstrate that a little further back. You want to take this clip and move it away from you. Just be careful. It is plastic that is old and it could be easily broken. Once that's been removed, you can take your control module here and put it off to the side. After that has been removed, with this particular model, you should just be able to pick it right up from the base of the plastic. We'll put that down and put this off to the side. It looks a little dirty. I will definitely do a cleaning on this. And following that, we're going to spin this around to give you a better vantage point, as the 2 screws we're going to remove is going to be right here at the bottom right, here, and here. So we'll go ahead and remove both of those. Again, we're just using the same Phillips head screwdriver, nothing special. This is going to remove the fan, the power switch, and allow us to take out the CD and DVD reader. We'll start with the power switch. We will remove that carefully. And if you just flip it over, you'll see right here, there is the connection for it. just push the tab on the back, it'll pull right out. Once again, we'll put those things off to the side. We do need to remove the CD, DVD reader, as well as the fan and this little housing here. But before we do that, there are going to be some ribbon cables here. There's going to be a total of 5, so be very careful when removing this. There is going to be 3 here, 1 here, and then 1 towards the bottom, and that is actually the ribbon cable that goes back and forth for the laser. But at this point, what we're going to do is flip it upside down, and we want to remove this power supply, which is going to give us better access to the fan plug so that we can remove the fan completely out of the way, since it is kind of tucked in under and between the board and the power supply. In order to remove that power supply, there's going to be 4 screws right here. And if I can pan in and get all 4 in the shot, you got 1 here, 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 and here. I'll go ahead and remove those now. Place these off to the side. And this part is fairly simple. There's going to be this 4-pin connector here. You simply lift it straight up, and that'll remove the power supply in its entirety. I'd like to just mention, this is pretty clean for a console that is 25 years old. We are presented with this little plastic piece here, and then just underneath that is 2 pieces of Scotch tape. Here and here, along with the plastic. We're going to take off the plastic, we're going to remove the Scotch tape, and then it'll give us access to this right here, which is our fan plug. We need to remove that in order to remove the fan. To remove this plastic, just simply pull up. We'll put that off to the side. Also, the hard drive cage, we're also going to remove that and put it off to the side, which we are now presented with our next step. And that is just removing this plug, and it appears that the adhesive is already worn off on the first piece of Scotch tape there. So we'll go ahead and remove this piece and remove the plug to grab the rest. Excellent. And all we simply have to do is pull straight up, and that will release the fan from its plug. Just like that. And as you can see, it just comes right out. Now we're going to remove this, which should just pop right off. Again, we're going to place that off to the side. What we want to do to make it a little bit easier to get to it is remove all these Phillips head screws from the back plate. And there's also one more here. If you're looking at the back, there's one more here. So we'll start off with this one first. Once again, it's just the same Phillips head. Place that off to the side. Make sure you hold on to that drive just in case it decides to move. We don't want any of those ribbon cables to break and make the project a little longer. We're going to remove the screws next so we can remove this back plate. I will mention we were using a number 1 Phillips head. Now we're using a number 0, just a single 0. That will make it a lot easier to remove these and avoid stripping the screws. Pro tip, it's good to place the screws pretty much in line with how you removed them, because it'll be a lot easier to put them back where they were. Also because some of them are going to be a little bit different. This is a rounded and this one is a flat Phillips head screw, which is a little difficult to see on camera. Assuming we removed everything, we should be able to lift this plate. There are going to be a few points where you need to use your little tool, even a flathead screwdriver, to free itself from the drive. And we will carefully lift this up, and that should remove the back plate. Set that off to the side. We finally are getting closer to the battery, and we are now permitted to remove The ribbon cables, we'll just lift this clip up and towards you, pull that off with the blue tab, as well as this one here, which is the worm gear motor. That one is just as easily removable. There's no tab, just be careful with it. And that should, in theory, remove the drive, which we will carefully put to the side because we don't need that anymore. I will say at this point, there should be no more screws left over. Just doing a quick visual inspection. If everything was done correctly, we should just be able to remove this. It will be a little stuck on. And just like that, we are officially at the battery. And there is that battery. A CR2032. This is what we're going to remove and replace. The next part is very simple. I have a replacement 2032 by Energizer, not sponsored. Hey, give me a call. And we're just going to dislodge this battery. In order to do that, I'll demonstrate in an exaggerated form. You're going to place, even a flathead screwdriver, right here in between the battery. There's going to be a little pocket. If I don't zoom in, I'm going to hear it in the comments again. So here it is. There's a little pocket right here. You're going to place this here, anything to leverage it out, and push forward and then flip it off. So in, up, and out. And I'll demonstrate that now. In, forward, and out. Just like that. A 25-year-old battery is officially removed, and we will be replacing it with this one. So in the same manner, you're going to place it inward first and push it in and down. And there you have it. All we got to do now is quite literally build the thing back together, and you're all set. Just did a quick dusting off camera. Nothing too crazy right now. Just for the video purposes, we're going to put this all back together. We're going to take this heatsink and we're going to place it exactly on top where it lines up with all the holes. And if you have all the holes lined up, that is spectacular. We will carefully flip this over while holding all the pieces down. And we need to grab our drive. Our drive is going to go just underneath this. Once again, you want to hold everything together. Don't want it coming loose. So essentially you want to grab these parts here, just kind of pinch it. You don't need to do a kung fu grip or anything, just make sure it doesn't move, and place this right on top. You're going to line up all your ribbon cables where they need to go. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 here. And here is your 6th cable. This is for later on. All we're going to do is make sure that this one is still in the open position, and we're going to slide that in and press firmly down. Give it just a small tug. You don't want to pull it that hard because it will break. Once again, we're going to push all the ribbon cables back in, making sure to be careful. Once that's all put together, we're going to take our plate and place it back on top, carefully lining everything together the way we took it apart. And that should just drop right into place without forcing it at all. No reason to force anything back together. I'm going to continue holding this right-hand side and reinstall these screws here. And I'm simply dropping the screws in place, and I'm going to use my trusty screwdriver to reinstall everything. Once again, this is the screws that require the 0 size Phillips head. I'm using this tool right here, which is an automatic screwdriver. Again, completely unnecessary. You can still do it by hand, but for the time of this video and to speed up the process, we're going to just use this and screw everything back in. Let's get ourselves reorientated. We'll flip this around. Before we place this cover and fan back on, let's not forget the screw that is supposed to go right here, which is what pinches that final piece of the heatsink. Next, let us place this piece back on. There are a few things to take note. There is a small lip right there. Right there. That's going to fall into this groove, and there's two lips here and here, and those are going to slide right into place with this metal piece. So we'll just go ahead and put this back on. You'll know the fan mount is back on correctly when all three holes are aligned. You should see light passing through these three holes. Following that is replacing the fan. It's important to note this is facing the right way. You'll know this is facing the right way because there are arrows that are indicating outward. They're pulling heat out. And it's also kind of hard to mess up because there are two holes on both sides. One is smaller than the other, and you have these little nipples right here and right here. Oops. That the fan will slide into place. So we'll proceed with guiding the wire through, pushing it up, and plugging it back in. Let's see if I get a good angle there. And just press on the plastic. Try not to smush any of the wires. And that is firmly in place. We can go ahead and put that just like that. Flip this back over, holding the fan in place so it doesn't slide out. And we're going to put the hard drive shield back on, followed by the plastic piece. That's just going to go right underneath. And just kind of manipulate it back into place. Then we'll bring our power supply. Just be mindful where this wire is. Again, as long as it's not getting pinched here or here, it should be fine. And on the bottom, there's going to be 4 holes for this particular model. Each power supply is a little bit different with each PlayStation, but you're going to line them up with the 4 holes along with the 4-pin connector, and you want to push firmly here. Don't press anywhere else. You may damage it. Just here to ensure that that has made a connection where it needs to be connected, and we'll secure everything back into place with the 4 screws. By accomplishing that, you now have this back into place, which is being held by these 2 screws. There's going to be additional in just a few steps. We're going to go ahead and reinstall the power switch. So that just slides right into place. Make sure the orientation is correct, which is like so. It's also kind of hard to get confused by the orientation because it is labeled. So you have main power at the top and alternating current, or AC, in. Make sure to hold that with one finger while holding the fan because the fan is still loose, and just plugging this back into place. Again, being mindful to push it with your finger and the plastic and not pushing up against the wires. Afterwards, we're going to bring all the pieces back into place. I will be cleaning this off camera, do a thorough cleaning, but for now, we're going to leave it the way it is. You know what? I can't. I'll just do a quick wipe down. At least a wipe down. Just something. There. That looks a little better. We'll drop this back into place, but just make sure the orientation is correct. If you have your USB connection in the front, you'll want to spin this around, and this would be the proper orientation. Want to drop that right into place, like so. We'll then grab this piece and reconnect the ribbon cable and press down carefully on that connector and just give it a very slight tug. Tuck the ribbon cable back into place, let it drop, and it should align with these two holes here. In doing so, we can place our screws back here and the screws back here. We are nearing the finish line. The following piece is going to be this cover here. So we're going to replace this in the opposite direction. And if you remember, to take it off, it was tilted forward and then pull out. This time we're going to tilt it forward so that the drive falls into place along with the buttons. Then allow it to drop back into place. And if it is done correctly, it should take 0 effort to install that. And if you remember at the beginning of the video, we had the orientation of the PS2 facing this way. So now we're going to replace all of our screws back into place. Get them tightened up, place the expansion bay cover back on, and test. We will put this expansion bay cover back on just because it's quick, and place the rubber caps and plastic caps back into place. I say that because 4 of them are going to be rubber, and then the rest will be hard plastic. The rubber pieces are going to go back into the 4 corners, and the remaining plastic pieces will fall back into place in the remaining holes. And now you have successfully replaced the CMOS battery, the CR2032 battery. It's all done. All we got to do is plug this in and test, which we'll do right now. Here we are, moment of truth. Let's power this back on. Press power button. And we should see a successful installation. Look at those dots rotating. All right. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content like this, or check out the other videos I have in my channel. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.